I'm Linda van Tilburg for Biznews. There's a buzz in Cape Town about a new local and international airport near Durbanville after the city has thrown its weight behind the development. And we have the director of the Cape Winelands Airport, Nick Ferguson, in the studio to tell us about the project, including its plans to be an alternative destination airport. Hi, Nick. Welcome to Biznews.
Hi, Linda. Thanks for having me.
How far are your plans for this Cape Winelands Airport?
So we have been 3 years in planning phases, and that was first a land use plan, then a traffic forecast, and then a master plan. The land use plan looks at runway directions, looks at obstacles, looks at things like roads and that sort of thing. Then once you have sort of a high level understanding of where your main runway would go, you look at traffic forecasts. And those traffic forecasts were done by a company called NACO, which is the Netherlands Airport Consultancy Organization. And they then, benchmarked 3 different scenarios, like a conservative, a middle ground, and an anchor airline scenario. And then what happens is that they take those traffic forecasts and they create a master plan, which looks forward to 2050 and says, do you have the space for it? And it works backwards in planning activity level. So we 3 years down the track in terms of the planning, we have started our environmental impact assessment. We do have, depending on how that goes, between 18 months and 2 years for that. And then we will start building as soon as that's done. And the build is anticipated to take 2 years.
You were open for comments, and I see that the city of Cape Town has also appears to have endorsed it. So what kind of comment did you get?
The city of Cape Town, so we have, endorsements from the local government and provincial government, and it was mainly around the application, firstly, for an international license, which we need to go through. But in terms of the environmental impact assessment, we have had comments from city departments, as well as provincial departments, Department of Environmental Affairs, interested in affected parties. Yeah, so there's quite a few people who've commented. And I must say that the comments are generally all positive.
Well, the airport has such a rich history. Can you tell us about the background that goes back to Second World War?
Yes, and it was built in 1943 by the Allied forces to protect the coastline of South Africa during World War II. And at the time, they actually built this airport before Cape Town International, and it's on the Joostenburg vlakte, and that was because it was a flat area, and even at the time was probably a more appropriate site to choose an airport. It was held by government till 1994, where it was bought, and we bought it off that entity that owned it.
So what is the model that you're going for? The last time you told me that it would be an airport, local flight, international flight, but also you have this unique model for the airport to be an alternative destination airport.
Yes, so that's a key component. So I think the best way to explain this is we effectively in Cape Town live on an island, and I always like to sort of portray this as the dancing girls with the pineapples, and we effectively are very far away from other airports, and realistically, if you want to come to Cape Town or if you want to leave Cape Town, you have to fly. 95% of people fly, and what that practically means is that we have a lot of traffic. Obviously, I know SAFAir did 50 flights in a day from Joburg to Cape Town the other day. That's a lot. It's the Joburg Cape Town route is the 10th busiest in the world. And realistically, what happens is that any aeroplane, but I'll explain it in terms of scheduled traffic. So an airline like Emirates, who is taking off from Dubai, needs to plan their fuel arrangements for that flight. So before they take off, they log their weight, they log how many passengers on board, how much main fuel they've got, and what their reserve fuel is in case of incidents. And the reserve fuel is specifically around a destination alternate fuel. So if they get to Cape Town International and there's a problem at Cape Town International and they have to fly somewhere else, it's logical that they have to have enough fuel to get to the other airport. These other airports, so you can only designate an alternate airport where it has the necessary services and facilities to be able to accommodate that type of plane. So in other words, if you've got a 777, out of Dubai, you can't fly to George because it can't, you can't, the runway is too short, the pavement strength is not strong enough, etc. So realistically, what's happening is that every international airline, wide-body airlines, are designating Johannesburg as an alternate. And they, in the case of Emirates, would carry 10 tons of fuel. So when they take off from Dubai, they are carrying 10 tons of fuel in case there's a problem at Cape Town. They burn 4 tons of that fuel, of the 10, depending on weather. So they burn 4 tons. By the time they get to Cape Town, they're sitting at a reserve fuel of 6 tons, because if you carry weight, you burn fuel. They burn those 4 tons. That 4 tons is, in rand terms, costing them 100,000 rand a flight. But if they didn't carry 10 tons of fuel, they would carry 10 tons of payload. Now, payload is obviously cargo or passengers, and so that upside is in the region of 1.5 million rand a flight. So there's a cost and there's an opportunity cost, and we are saying to the airlines, we will share in this benefit. Let's share in the benefit. You take a portion of it, and we'll take a portion of it, and we'll use our portion to fund the aeronautical infrastructure required to be a designated airport. So that's the primary thing. So that will give us a runway, and it will give us a small terminal building. It will give us Cat 3 ILS, and to put it in perspective, Cat 3 is the highest category of instrument landing system, which effectively is when you're flying in on a Cat 3, you can have 0 visuals, visual eye visuals, but you can still land. Cape Town currently is on a Cat 2 ILS subsystem, so we will be superior to Cape Town International. In terms of ILS, we'll have a longer runway. I know Cape Town International is planning a new rear line runway of 3.5 kilometers, but the current runway is 3,200 meters, not capable of landing all planes. So there are constraints on Cape Town International's runway with an A380, for instance.
Is the saving that airlines could make also the reason why you could call yourself the greenest airport in the world?
Yes, so that's so any entity can look inwards, and they do. Airlines look inwards, mines look inwards. Businesses look at how they can change their operations to make themselves greener. But realistically, it's very rare that there's an entity that can have a massive impact outwards. So we will have electric vehicles. We'll be off the grid for our electricity. We will process our own water. We will have our own sewage. We'll store stormwater on site. All of those things, all add to our green credentials. But realistically, we are saving the airline industry. It's in the region of 1 to 2 billion, 1 to 1.5 billion rand a year. And how that works is because they burn fuel, they emit by burning extra fuel, they're emitting more carbon dioxide and carbon emissions. And by us building this airport, we will save them, these emissions just by simply building it.
So, what response have you had from airlines, to come with you into this venture on this basis?
So the response has been great. So, Linda, if I say to you, here's 100 Rand, and I say to you, listen, please just give me 50 Rand back, what would you say?
Yep. Probably yes.
Yes. You'd probably at first think that there's something wrong with it. You probably think maybe I'm getting, maybe the 100 I'm getting is not real, but this is real. So we didn't come up with these numbers. We spotted the opportunity, and we engaged a aeronautical performance engineers out of Germany, based in Berlin, and they modeled this scenario for us. So we commissioned them to model it for different routes and different planes, and the airlines have corroborated the numbers. So all these airlines go. What they do is you give them the numbers, and then they got their own processes, and they check the numbers. And in some cases, their numbers are actually coming up higher than our numbers.
So, what's the timeline of the project? You said first flights. What is it? 2027.
Yeah, so that's the target, and we're confident that we'll be able to do that at this stage, and with the support we've got, we can achieve that.
And apart from this long runway that you're going to have, what other facilities will you have at the airport?
So we will be, I quote this saying that NACO gave us, and it's the airport leaves the city follows the airport, and the airport becomes a city. So realistically, what happens is it actually becomes a city. So we will have, in terms of our master plan, we've got fuel, we've got cargo, we've got maintenance organizations, we've obviously got a terminal building, we've got a VIP terminal building. So for a special anchor airline, we have got general aviation, which is everything other than scheduled traffic. We have hotels, we've got cold storage facilities for cargo. We've got a link actually that between two harbors, being Saldanha Harbor and the harbor in Capetown. So there's a wine experience. There's a museum, an aviation museum, where we've in fact had a 1908 or something plane donated to us, which will be in that museum. But there's guys that have these amazing collections of historical planes that they wanting to show people and wanting to store, and we will gladly take those in our museum.
You mentioned an anchor airline. Who are you looking for?
So we believe the anchor airline will come somewhere from the Middle East. It's obviously airlines that are flying already direct into Cape Town. It could be a new one. So realistically, the airlines that are flying direct at the moment are the bigger ones, who we think would be an anchor airline are Qatar or Emirates. Etihad is out of Abu Dhabi is a real option. They've just opened their new airport in Abu Dhabi, where the terminal building is 780,000 square meters. Terminal building. To put that that in perspective, that's almost like it's a huge it's bigger than any of the other terminal buildings. So there's this competition between, these Middle Eastern airlines, Emirates, Qatar, and Etihad, and now the new kid on the block is Saudi and Riyadh Air. Out of Saudi Arabia, they currently have two airlines, Saudi Air and Riyadh Air, which is this new option. So realistically, if they're wanting to capture this, this market, have naming rights, for instance. So that's what we're offering. We're offering some sort of exclusivity. We're offering naming rights, showing them the savings that this airline, this airport will bring. For a company like Emirates, it's in the region of $50 million.
And are they also your investors?
No, they're not our investors at the moment, but we're hoping that one of them will come on as an investor in our airport.
So you've mentioned that it's going to be a city and the impact of that. What impact do you think it will have on the tourism industry in the Western Cape?
In the traffic forecast that was done by NACO, they broadly, Cape Town is at 10 million passengers per year currently, or prior to COVID, it was at 10 million passengers, 10 to 11, and the market is going to go to 20 million. We will have 5 out of the 20, and Cape Town International at 15 out of the 20. So realistically, we will have 1 in every 2 new passengers that come to Cape Town will come to us, and we'll have 25% of the market. That's what the traffic forecast predicts, but we think we're going to do better than that.
Could you tell us about the team you've pulled together? I know that Rob Hersoff was involved initially.
He was involved, and he stepped aside in March of this year, 2023, and is no longer involved. We have an executive board of directors, 4 executives and 5 non-executives. In our executive team, we've got myself, Dion Kluti. Dion was the head of Cape Town International Airport from 2008 to 2021. So, if there is someone who knows airports in Cape Town, it's him. And prior to being the head of Cape Town International, he was the head of Durban Airport. So from 2001 to 2008, he was also the general manager of South African Airways from 1999 to 2001. Then we've got Klingenberg, who's the ex-ACSA, head of design and strategy for ACSA. So she looked after all 9 ACSA airports in terms of their strategy, their master plans. She had all of the team. She had 6 people reporting direct into her in terms of planning at airports. So there's no one in South Africa who's better than her. Mark Wilkinson is our GM. He's a chartered accountant like myself. I mainly come from a property development background.
Well, Nick Ferguson, thanks so much, and we'll watch this one with interest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Appreciate your time, and hope you have a great Christmas, and we'll speak to you in the new year.
Yeah, you too. Definitely. Thank you.
Okay.